Welcome everybody to the Exec Cabinet Member meeting for Adults Health and Wellbeing, and it's Monday the 11th of September 2 p.m. The first of the non-confidential items on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet Member decisions, and that's enclosed. I don't know whether you will have all read these, so I don't know whether any of the officers would like to say if there's any that we can take off. There's Greater Manchester Social Work Academy host transfer arrangements. Can that go or stay? Do we know? Tracy?
I think I've updated this just recently, actually, with all the officers have actually come together to try and update this, and they've done a good job on it. Anything that says completed, I will remove, obviously, after this
so
meeting. But Tracy's got a hand up, so yeah.
Sorry, Tracy, yeah, carry on, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, all the updates are up to date. There are a few action areas that, whilst approved, will have a further update at the next meeting, and those are indicated in the final column. So items progress, but no further update at present. Those will be updated further down the line. The one that can come off is the Personal Budget Support Service, because that is on the agenda today under the confidential item, Chair.
Okay.
As can the financial outturn. Sorry, apologies, the one directly after that action.
Right, okay. Well, thank you for that. So, councillors, there's nothing else that you particularly wanted to ask about any of those, is there? I can't see any hands up. Okay, so we'll move on then to item 2, which is the Department of Adults Financial Monitoring out Q1, and that's Lisa.
It is indeed. Thank you, Chair. I will presume that everybody's read the report, but I will take you through the headlines for this. So this is in the normal template for my quarterly reports, the one for adults financial monitoring for the Q1 of 23-24. The key messages is that it will be a transfer from reserves of £2.7 million. We have a revised capital programme of 623,000. And that reserves are looking at 4.3 million at the end of the financial year. In table 1, you'll be able to see the budget adjustments that have gone through in Q1, in particular the ones that have gone through to corporate and into children's. The pooled budget arrangement with the old CCG, now the NHS ICB, is in section 2.1 as well. Then we move down to our redirections. So for the purposes of this report, we will be approving the transport and charges, 150,000 of savings, which have been done with by increasing fees and reduction of controllable budgets within this area. And there has been a reduction of substate emplacements, working with our colleagues in place to reduce £100,000 from the controllable budget. Table 2 in section 2.3 shows where the under and overs are within this, and the various analysis explains everything in there. The appendix then gives details of the capital reserves and the savings programme. And Chair, I am quite comfortable to take any comments or questions on this particular report.
Right, is there anything anybody would like to ask Lisa about? Can't see any hands up anywhere. Can you, Sue? Frantically looking.
No hands up, no.
All I can see is a thumbs up from Councillor Morgan, so I'm taking that as an approval. Okay then, thank you for that, Lisa.
Thank you, Chair.
Look forward to next quarter report. Item 3 then is Public Health Financial Monitoring Q1, and that's you again, Lisa, isn't it?
It is indeed, Chair. Thank you very much. So in the same way, I'll talk through the Public Health report. So this is for the financial monitoring for 23-24 Q1. The key elements to look at is that there will be a contribution to reserves of £336,000 at the end of the year, and reserves are projected to be 3.669 as at the 31st of March. And this is mainly due to the commitments that have already gone forward in the conf and also in the investment plan. Moving down into the sections, there were no strategic options this year for public health. And in table 1, you'll be able to see the changes within the different portfolios. For members, this is the first section of the table for the adults health and wellbeing. because the civil contingencies lie within the climate change and environmental services portfolio. In section table 2, you can see the under and over spends within the particular areas, and a variance analysis explains this, and then reserves that show where the spend is going in this financial year. And I'm quite happy to take any comments or queries within regard to this particular report. Can't get my words out.
So are there any questions or any comments? Can't see anybody's hand up again. No, we're quite happy with that. Okay, well, thank you for that, Lisa. And again, we'll look forward to Quarter 2 report from you next time.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Item 4 then is adults and housing. I know housing isn't in my remit anymore as an exec member, but it's quite hard apparently to separate them at the moment. So the adults and housing performance management report, it's down as Rachel Tanner. Is Tracy, have you been asked to do this again?
I have, Chair, so I will take this paper. Thank you. So this paper is to give you some information around the quarterly performance information for the department. In section 1 and 2, it just outlines the context and some of the challenges that we face as a department, not least the demand on growth, complexity of customers, and the increase in average size of care packages. And in section 3, it highlights the key priorities and the progress that's been made in quarter 1 against 6 of the key priority areas. I'm assuming that everyone's read those, but I'll take one of them as an example. So the second action down is the directorate priority was enabling healthy and connected communities, and the action was to develop a greater understanding of our community assets and our markets to enable outcome-based grants and contracts. And in order to evidence-base that, myself and the corporate manager have facilitated a number of sessions with the voluntary sector over the last few months, and that's around raising awareness within the sector about what is commissioning, what is QA, what is market management, and the financial aspects of that wider partnership approach. And those conversations will continue throughout this year and will help us to look at a long-term strategy for how we work with the sector. That work's complemented by the work that's underway, which is detailed in the paper around an adult social care commissioning strategy. And similarly, the other 5 areas have a narrative underneath them which explains the action that has been taken. In section 3.2, it talks to the dashboard that is included in Appendix 2, and it details the areas of increase and decrease relevant to adults and integration. In section 4, it talks about quality and details the quality assurance and improvement team's work around compliments and complaints. And in quarter 1, we had a total of 20 complaints that were received. Now that is an increase on the previous quarter, but that can be directly attributed to some quite detailed training that was undertaken by the staff in May, which helped them to revisit what we wanted from them in terms of that informal complaints log. And naturally, when you do training like that, you see a little increase in terms of the number of complaints that come through. Having said that, those have all been monitored and they are monitored through our governance process. And just to say that learning is held at the quality of practice group. So that detailed learning around those complaints is fed through that board. In terms of that quarter, it's also really important to note that there's 59 compliments were received by the department, and the key theme for those compliments were around staff support and service users and families and friends feeling that they had the relevant support that was needed. The same section gives you a little bit of background and information around the audits of practice that have been undertaken in quarter 1, and similarly the numbers of care homes and the percentages of how we compare against the Northwest average. And I'll pick out just a couple. So at the end of quarter 1, 88.2% of Bolton registered community-based adult social care providers were rated good or outstanding. Now that is a slight decrease from the previous quarter, and Bolton is ranked 8th in the Northwest. Now just to give you some assurance, the 8th isn't a bad position to be in. Obviously we aim to be 1, but 8th is is a northwest, so that includes Lancashire, it includes St Helens. It's much broader than the Greater Manchester picture. And those reports are monitored by myself and DLT. And similarly, at the end of Q1, 91.7% of Bolton CQC registered care homes were judged good or outstanding. And again, that's a very similar position to where we were in the previous quarter. The next sections are all included in relation to HR and finance, and we have done the equity of impact assessment as required. And Chair, this report is just to note the performance information for Q1.
Okay. Right, there's a lot there to digest. Is there any questions or comments or anything anyone would like to ask about it?
Councillor Bamforth.
Right, Councillor Bamforth. Sorry, I couldn't quite see you then. Yeah, do you want to ask your question?
Not a criticism in any form of way. Why have we had a decrease from 91 down to, was it 83? Just 1 second. No, sorry, 87, 88, sorry. So why have we had a decrease from 93.6 down to 88.2? This is just me asking the question because I genuinely don't understand it.
Councillor Bamforth, it's a very good question, and I think some of it is a result of the inspection regime picking back up again. So more of our assurance functions that have been previously put on hold or have been delayed because of COVID and coming out of COVID are now picking up momentum again. Our internal, just to give assurance, our internal QCO process, our quality process has been throughout COVID, but that's not what's formally reported. This is the formal reporting. So that's why you'll have seen a slight decrease. Again, to provide assurance, we have a robust quality assurance process, which means that those providers that have seen a change are then supported really proactively by my team to get them back into a place that they want to be. So if they've moved from good to requires improvement, the team will support them in their work plan and action plan to get them back into that space of good. So some of it is around obviously there was a delay and a lag in terms of that inspection regime, and to be honest, some of it was the regime has changed. So again, it's about providers being supported to understand how and what they're going to be measured on, which is different from what they've been previously measured on.
Okay, very apologies. I really hope I'm not jumping on Andy's question here, so apologies if I do, Andy. You say we're 8th out of how many? Because I know you're saying 8th isn't that much of a bad, and if you're just looking at Greater Manchester as a whole, I can only imagine we've got a huge number of providers in the area. I'm just curious, where does 8th come into the bigger picture over the entire of the Northwest?
If I can, Chair, I will do the extract from the report and I'll send it through for Susan to share. The actual report is commercially sensitive, so I'm not able to share the report wider, but I can extract the numbers. I actually did try and do it before I jumped on this call, Councillor Bamforth, that's why I'm smiling. Yeah. But it was a bit complex because what Lancashire is a number of areas within the area. So when I say Lancashire as one, you'll understand Lancashire's huge. So it's not one. Yeah. So I will put that into.
Yeah, like I said, it's not me doubting anything because I can only imagine there's a huge number of providers. Yes. I'd just like to know how high we are because I can only imagine 8th means we are quite high up. I'd just like to see the bigger picture, that's all. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bamforth. Councillor Morgan.
Thanks, Linda. You mentioned about the CQC regime changing, Tracy. Yes. And obviously it's starting to be trialled down southeast, I think, first, isn't it? The new.
Yes.
What's the expectation, do you think, of it when it's, because obviously I can speak with my order hat on as well, it's quite a dramatic change. Have we heard anything else about us being inspected as an integrated partnership yet?
Not yet. There appears to be a slight delay from the original dates, which were around the September-October mark. We are still preparing our business as usual because it is our business as usual, but I think we will be towards Christmas before we get a further update. Having said that, we are heavily involved across GM in various partnership market shaping and kind of assurance meetings where we're sharing information and intelligence as we go through. So we are on with it. We have a plan in place, but this is our business as usual, as you know, and it's about being able to evidence base what we already do and deliver. So I think it's more around that kind of evidence gathering.
Are we going to be changing our in-house inspection, you know, the PAM stuff that we do?
Not currently, but I think it depends on what comes. When we start to get more information, we will absolutely reflect that in our process to make sure it supports providers, because it absolutely needs to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, thanks for that question. Both questions were very relevant. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I'm just looking at the other councillors. No, Paul? 2 Pauls? No? Okay. Right. So thank you for that, Tracy. Thank you for and thank you for offering to give us the extract, which we will pore over with interest. Thank you. Now then, for those of people who are watching on live stream, it's time to say goodbye to you, because we are now moving into what we call the confidential items, part B as we call it. So the councillors, you all stay here, please. We can discuss this, but we will have to end the recording at this point.
Yeah, I'll do that now. Thanks, Councillor Thomas.
Okay.